All right. So, yes, good evening, and welcome to All About Us Radio. I'm your host of Life After the X, Ty Washington, the Ex-Con expert. You can follow us on Facebook and YouTube at AAU Media. We're here every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central and 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I have some amazing things to share this evening. I have my wonderful co-host for the evening,
Yes.
my sister Tia, that's going to be here helping me host the show. It's going to be amazing. She's going to share her favorite tea and a tip for this week. And guess what? I'm open to see what's going to be on my topic list because normally I'm the one sharing some things and asking questions, but we're going to flip the script. Sound like Flip Couture's in the house. We're going to flip the script and we're going to be sharing some things about me on another perspective from Tia's angle. So I'm looking forward to this right here. So thank you and welcome again. I hope you gain some things that we're going to be sharing this evening on the show. Do please like and share the show with other people. We're happy to have you here and we're at it. So hey Tia, tell us about yourself.
So just to introduce myself, I'm Tia. And am I only? No, I'm Tia Finney. And so we have been friends, sisters for a very long time. There's a lot that has transpired in Tina's life that I have been a part of directly and indirectly, and just the way we've come together to be friends through my mom. So when she told me about her show, I was excited. I was like, hey, that's a ministry. That's a way you can do an outreach. But do people really know your side of the story? And I know she gets on and talks about herself, but we want to dig just a little deeper and find out just a little bit more because I'm inquisitive. Hey, we want to know. So let's talk about it and let's see if we can touch some people and help some people tonight.
All right, let's see if we can touch someone because I'm sure someone's probably been affected by one of the things that I've gone through. And we really want to open the dialogue. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment box, as well as if you want to reach out to us via email concerning some things that we're discussing and you need help about resources, please reach out to us, like I said, via the comment box, through our email, through either All About Us Radio or through Life After the X.
So the first thing that I want to start off is, I know you've told your story, but in regards to, I know we have conversations all the time. Mm-hmm. And so just for new viewers, kind of go back and kind of talk about what Life After the X is.
Okay, so Life After the X is simply telling an experience that you have lived through and you learn some valuable lessons. Now, of course, when I was going through those lessons, they didn't seem very valuable. As a matter of fact, they were very costly to me because with every choice that I made, I had to face the consequence to it, whether it was positive or negative. So, but now that I've matured inside of my situation, Life After the X is able to take those things and switch it around and show you where you can recognize the flags and be able to help someone either prevent them or help them process what they're going through. So when they have that experience, they can come back and share their life after it as well.
Okay. So in regards to Life After the X, and you're sharing your story of what happened to you with your ex-husband, let's go a little bit deeper than that. So a little bit of history, just to be honest about me. I work in the criminal justice system, and I work very closely in the court system. So I can see behind the scenes, and having this relationship with you was also a different way. Yeah. So in regards to that, we're here. It's been how many years since you've been released from prison?
It's been 8 years.
So from your time in prison to now, what do you feel like your life has evolved?
Well, honestly, when I first returned, I didn't know what I was really going to be facing. Because honestly, if you've never been on parole before, you don't know what that's going to look like.
Right.
And so coming back to a society that has totally changed after 4 years, and 4 years don't seem long, but a lot happened in 4 years. Like literally, Walmart had toilets that you walk up to it and they flush by remote. So that was a little bit different. So, but being able to transition, coming back home, and with my children being under my mom and my dad's guardianship, and learning how to get back into that schedule was a challenge, because you want to come back and you want to jump in and try to make up for lost time, and you can't. So along with the requirements that I had with parole, which was a challenge, just trying to get adjusted to that, was with my life every day. How am I going to have money? Because I now got fees to go along with that. All the things that I lost, how am I going to get back in contact if I was going to be an entrepreneur or find a traditional job? How was I going to be able to handle that? How was I going to handle the rejections? Because a lot of stuff that they say they have available to help us are not always readily available when you are being approached with that when you first get in. So people are faced with that, and I was faced with that just as well. So I was encouraged by my support system and faith, but it wasn't always easy to just have access to them and being able to navigate that day by day. So it was a journey to get from here to now. 8 years, there was a lot that I've gone through. Like I had a lot of tickets.
A lot. Now I didn't understand why you had so many tickets.
Okay, so let me just tell you, and people can probably relate to this, and I'm open for questions as well. When you're going through something as challenging as the charge that I had, trying to remember a court date for a seatbelt ticket would tend to fall off your list when you're trying to keep up your court date for a premeditated murder charge, when you're trying to see yourself as not being guilty for that thing. So I'm not giving it a reason of excuse, but it was a reality for me that I just didn't weigh those out like I should have. Now, let me just say this. I could have taken advantage of taking care of it while I was on the inside.
True.
But I didn't examine that resource, because I was just trying to fight to get out. But had I been wise enough and been, because people don't educate people, so that's why we want to educate families that are hearing us, so they can tell their families how to take care of that and don't come home to it.
So I'm gonna jump in because of what I do in my professional life. I do know how to take care of those. So if you have a loved one that is in the prison system or even is in state jail. So there's a difference between going to prison and being in jail locally, or even state jail where there's not maximum security. Mm-hmm. So that means anything that's less than 5 years and you're in the sentence, you will have state jail. So state jail is pretty much locally. It's not a maximum prison, and they're able to be released in the street. Even before that, if it's less than 2 years, they'll stay at a local jail. So the local jail is, for us, is in Dallas County. It's Lew Sterrett. Mm-hmm. So you can stay up there until a certain amount of time. Even if you're behind any type of bars at that time, you can petition the court to give you time served. So they will use your time that you're already in prison, and any tickets, any other cases that you've been convicted on, small cases. Understand, certain felonies trump other misdemeanors, but they will take the time that you're already serving and run it concurrent. When I say run it concurrent, run it at the same time. So you won't have to serve one sentence and then come back and serve another. That usually does not happen anymore, unless the judge says, I'm going to stack these sentences and make them run right after each other and not run concurrent. If they're not running concurrent, that means once one sentence is up, then you'll have to serve out another.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Since I didn't take care of them, one thing I do know is that with walking down parole, and maybe probation as well, because you can educate me and the audience about that. When you have warrants and tickets, what they explain was parole, we cannot have any type of violations. So with me having the tickets, and because they were in warrant status, if I was to get pulled over in that warrant status and they pulled me in, I guess the blue warrant, because of those, would I immediately be taken back in, or would they give me another opportunity hearing on that situation? Is it pretty much a case by case, or how do you work that? Because at this point, now you didn't get the time served, and you have to find out what that looks like.
So what usually happens with TDCJ, and that's the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, is they do a wrap out. And what we call as a wrap out is before that prisoner is released, they go through everything. Where's the housing going to be? Where they're going to be located? What other warrants and tickets are out there? So sometimes they will hold prisoners to say, hey, this judge, we need to send you straight over here. Or they'll contact that court, judge, is this still standing? Because they want to make sure everything is taken care of. Now, most of the time when you're dealing with seatbelt tickets, speeding tickets, they'll let you go out. But they will ask, hey, you report here, or judge, is this warrant still good? And that's why it was surprising to me that a lot of them didn't let you handle that behind bars, because if you had warrants. Now, here's the thing: in the state of Texas, seatbelt tickets, all of those, just states up on the East Coast and those different things, they hold those for a long time. And I don't know if they're letting people to go to jail, but in the state of Texas, they really don't like to jail you for those tickets. Now, it will stay on your record. You won't be able to renew your license. You won't be able to renew your car tags, of those different things, but they really don't like to send you to jail for debt. They call it debtor's prison. We don't have that here in Texas. They don't like to put you in jail for warrants for fees, but they will let them mount. And usually the judges will work with you. They're very good in working with you with those different things. But they do a wrap out. They usually, if you have warrants, they will make sure that those warrants are taken care of before they let you out. So they usually either say, well, we're going to hold her a week, and will you give her the time? Yes, I'll give her the time. And so they can recall all those warrants.
I've heard of that too, because I knew someone who family contacted me since I was been home, and they were like in transition, and that must be the way you explained it. But I must have fell through the cracks, because I came home with all these obligations and things, and of course, because I didn't take care of them, I was suspended. So I had to go through the getting the suspension undone, and then being able to totally renew by taking a whole exam again, because at that point it was expired. And then they had surcharges back then. So that's another good thing that people don't realize. Tell your family members about. They don't have surcharges anymore. But back then, if I'd have even known about the surcharge indigent program, but they don't have surcharges anymore. But that was something that that people could have utilized. Like me, if I'd have known about it, and I could have rectified some of that prior to coming home, and I would have had that big debt to wear me alongside paying my parole fees without having a job.
So let's jump in a little bit further than that. So you having these fees kind of worked out for you, because you met the man of your love, the love of your life.
Okay.
So in regards to that, and kind of tell your story about what happened there with those fees.
So I came home with all these tickets, as you hear from my wonderful sister friend that want to share my business this evening, spilling all the tea that we ain't got in the cup left over. I had a lot of tickets, and of course, I didn't know how to access the resources that were available to take care of that. So I came home with just a lot going on. But I always call this my burden disguise, blessing disguise.
We
talked.
We
did,
because I told you, hey, go around to the judges.
You told me the strategy. You told me the strategy, and you had me hyped up. I felt like I was going to get time served. I was geeked up. I thought I had favor working for me, and I did. I gained a lot of grace.
Okay.
Keep going. So she advised me, and I went to each location to find out where are my tickets and what the amounts and what the process would be to take care of that. So, but of course, like the scripture says, when you have a whole lot in a particular area, much given, much required.
Exactly.
So, of course, I went out to Grand Prairie. There was a Caucasian judge, I think he was filling in for somebody, because and I went to him, and I was honest about it. I'm just getting home, and I'm not trying to avoid it. I just don't have the money. Can you please give me time served? Because I was advised that I could probably access this since I'm just returning back to society from being incarcerated. He was like, okay, I give you time served. You just got to pay those surcharges. So I was happy. I left out of there. I think I let you know. And then so me and Mama strolled on to the next location. We went over to Judge Hassel's. I ain't trying to put no pub out here for political people, but whenever I can vote again, I'm voting for him. So I go over there to the courthouse, and I asked them, could I see the judge? Which people don't know that you can ask to see the judge.
Yes.
Because most people just go get in line and they just tell you what the options are, but you can't go before the judge, so you have to petition that. And so nevertheless, they did let me see the judge, and he was Hispanic. And so that's diversity. And so I went in and gave my same speech that I had been rehearsing, so I could,
You had it down pat.
I had it down to a science. I'm not encouraging nobody to just be coming up with ways to get over on the system, but do have your what you want to say in order, so you don't like you just coming in there trying to make them together to get over. And he did grant me the time served, but he did explain to me about the surcharges. I knew about that. So of course, that was a full day for us between Grand Prairie and Dallas because I was spread it out. Lord, I don't even know how. I didn't even know there's a difference between city tickets and county tickets.
Oh yes. The city of Dallas and the county of Dallas. The city will be DPD, Dallas Police Department, and the county is the Sheriff Department.
So when I went down to discover that, after you told me that, I didn't know there was a difference. So they was like, well, you still have, this is just for the county. You still have some things that hectic with the city. And that was another whole, because I thought I was just going to go to the church house and give me somebody to sign my community service. Mm-hmm. So I trolled on over to the neighborhood that lives close by me. And there was this interesting brother judge in the community, and I just knew I was going to have favor with the brothers since I had it with the other judges in the other communities. And I get there and I get to the county, and this, one is come for destruction. God tried to prepare us for things that we need to, but sometimes we pursue things that we shouldn't pursue. And it was some women at the counter, some sisters, and I thought they would work with me, but them your co-workers, but they didn't. They told me, you can't see the judge. I said, ma'am, I can't see the judge. This judge does not allow you to see them. These are your options. This is what you got to do. And I should have bowed down easily because I end up having to bite those and chew it out. But needless to say, I forced my way in to see the judge, and I got before him, and I used my wonderful speech that I had prepared for the other two judges and gained favor with that. And the brother stopped me in my tracks and said, now, sister, you got to give me something. And I felt very offended because I didn't feel like I was a sister at that moment. But he said I either had to go to jail. That could not be an option. I just came home. You have to come up with some money. I just told you I ain't had no money. I got to pay parole fees. And I got 2 kids want some ice cream from McDonald's. So he wasn't hearing that. And then he said, oh, you can do community service. And I'm thinking in my mind, I didn't work in the prison for free. I could do community service. But Lord, I didn't know what I was facing. But I got those hours, and I had a lot of hours.
So exactly how many hours did you have to do?
That was confidential, but nevertheless, it was a lot of hours I had. I want to say 900 and something hours, but it was people that had more hours than that. The people that come down from probation and stuff.
But here's the thing, what people may not understand, 900 hours, that equates to a lot of money because she's getting 2 for 1 is what we say. So you're getting 2, and there's a transition of conversion of money for hours. So you're getting paid double for 1 hour. So you still had over 900 hours. That means you had thousands of dollars in tickets. Oh my God.
But listen. Okay, so let's just educate people. So when you're doing time served, say if I would have went and set them out, I would have probably gotten more time and gotten done quicker.
You would have got 3 for 1.
I would have got 3 for 1. Okay, so but I couldn't afford that because there's an opportunity that the parole doesn't see that as the same. They see it as a violation because you're not taking care of your business in with the system. So therefore I didn't choose that option. So anyway, I had 900 and something hours. And so I went down to get my schedule ready to go down on Harry Hines. It was at the time. Harry Hines, boy, I tell you, met my man on Harry Hines. Nevertheless, I get to the counter and they get my car, and this guy said, we're gonna put her on that team. And I was like, because I really don't know what's going on here. So I rode in the van with Mr. Washington. And so my card had the name Georgia, but I'm thinking we went through this route. Oh my God, the first day on that route, we went through Luster. I just knew it was a setup. I thought they put everybody on this team that probably had warrants that hadn't satisfied. And he was going to go through Luster and drop us off. He was going to pick up the bags down there. I was feeling some kind of way.
So we're going to stop right there because I think we're a little bit over time.
Okay, y'all hold on.
And we're going to come back because we're going to go a little bit deeper in who George is, and how this fits into the circle. Okay, how it fits into the circle. So,
again, this is Life After the X. I'm your host. I have my wonderful co-host Tia here, and we're spilling the tea this evening. And we're gonna take some tea while we take this break, and we're gonna let our wonderful sponsors come on and talk about this product. And we're back in just a little bit. Thank you so much.
Hello, this is Najesti from Butterme Essentials, Natural Hair and Body Company. We are located in Brooklyn, New York. We are a family-owned company, which is run by my husband, Vaden, and I. Do you have hair that is hard to manage? Having trouble with hair growth? Is your skin always dry? No problem. Butterme Essentials is here with the solution. We specialize in hair butters, pomades, hair elixirs, shampoos, conditioners, luxury soaps, body butters, lotion bars, perfumes, scrubs, and so much more. All of our products is made with natural and organic ingredients such as shea butter, cocoa butter, mango butter, Jamaican black castor oil, avocado oil, Oregon oil, and essential oils. There is no sulfates, petroleum, mineral oils, or parabens, just all natural goodness. If you would like to order our products, check out our website at buttermeessentials.com, buttermeessentials.com, or call 646-524-3351, 646-524-3351. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Remember, like our motto says, you deserve to be buttered.
All right, welcome back to another amazing moment here with Life After the X. I'm your host, Ty Washington, and I have my amazing co-host, Tia, here today, and we're spilling the tea about me on the show when I normally want to be spilling the tea on other people, so we can find out, the life experience that someone is here to help share them some valuable lessons that they've learned from. But, I want to learn about what other people are doing as well, but they want to learn about me. So we're going to thank our sponsor, Butterme Essentials, for sponsoring our show this evening. We're here every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find us on social media at AAU Media, Facebook, and YouTube. So, Tia.
Okay. So we stopped and we took a break just for a minute. And you were starting to talk about you were serving these hours, you were doing community service, and your person that you were assigned to was George. So go a little bit deeper into that.
So let me just tell you, on my first day, I saw the name George on my card. I didn't know there was a building called George Allen. So I'm thinking in my mind, because we would go by that place over on Beckley, and they have the little area where they would put the people, they help the clerk people. And so I was thinking maybe I've been assigned to that particular route or something. I did not know he personally put his name on my card so they would have me back on that team.
Oh, okay.
So that's a little back scoop, boy. I told him this was a setup.
It was a setup.
Okay, we believe that. We're going to say that God did it. But nevertheless, his friend put me on his team because he said he wanted to find him a chick, but I wasn't interested. So at the end of that day, I was sitting there waiting for my mom to pick me up, and he came out. He's like, "How many hours you got?" I'm like, "I got a lot of hours. I'm gonna be here every day. I'm gonna be here every day, sir. So I get it done. I'm only gonna miss one day because I got a parole appointment." And he said, I was like, "But I'm be here." But
so at this time, he knew that you were. He knew you were on parole.
He knew at that point when I said that.
But did he know what you were on parole?
He did not know what I was on parole for. So he said to me after he realized how many hours I had, he said, "Dang, we're going to be married with kids when you get done with those hours." I was quite offended and taken aback. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to change the team.
You didn't know what he knew.
I didn't know what he knew, and I didn't know what I was getting into. So I just kind of let that settle. But nevertheless, I did come back on this team, and we did. So about maybe 2 or 3 weeks into riding with him every day, I was there Monday through Friday, except for that one day that I.
So it was like working a real job for you.
Absolutely,
it was an everyday
I was coming
job.
every day if you were consistent with it. Because some people wouldn't come every day because they probably had another job that paid them, but I came every day because I wasn't employed at that time. And I always encourage people, when you have that, come home and get it done and get off your bucket list, because it can't disturb your schedule when you're trying to go to work and go to school.
So what were some of the things that you did on community service so they can understand what they'll be getting into.
Okay, so when you have to do community service, there's a couple of different option teams that they have, and it's a little bit different now with COVID because they didn't have COVID back then. But they had the lawn; you could be out there cutting the grass at all the different government sites,
right?
Okay, the government centers and things, or in near the prison out near Hutchins area. And so typically be a government site, but there's supervisors that are there, and we're appointed to their team for construction. You can go in the courts and help with the filing, painting, construction.
And now they don't do that with the courts anymore.
They don't do that anymore. So there's a few things they don't do because of some reasons. And back in before my time, they used to do it on Saturday, but they stopped that as well for some variety of reasons prior to me getting there. But I was on a team where my team leader, he was assigned to getting all the secure documents. So everything that you have when you get your driver's license, your registration for your car, any legal thing that you do within the state of the county of Dallas, we take care of shredding and get rid of those secure documents from each location. And so we would drive to all these different areas, and it was quite interesting to discover all this stuff was in our city until we had to go to the prison, because I didn't want to go through the Hutchins prison and go in the building through the gate.
You didn't want that familiarity to come back to you.
What I was feeling to go in the prison gate, but not even when I knew I was coming out with regular clothes on, because it was just uncomfortable for me because it was still new. It was only 6 months of being home, and you just don't know. When you don't know, you don't know. So nevertheless, about 4 weeks into this thing, I was riding, and God whispered to me and said, "That's gonna be your husband." I was like,
So during this time, because I didn't know all this was going on the county community service van. So during this time, were you guys talking, getting to know each other? Because you're there every day, and other people didn't come every day. So how did the relationship start? How did you end up married?
Because I was so consistent. Let me tell you, some of the people that would come through, then they would come back and they still see me there. They was like, "Do you work here?" Because some of the people thought that I actually did work there, you know. And one of the people that worked was like, "What you gonna do when you stop being here all this time?" I'm like, "Go back to my real life." Like, I know it's 2 months and about a day of time, because 40, them hours were spread out between all the weeks in each month. And so that was June and July, and I finished in August. June 30th, then August, July, and then August. And so, but during that time we talked, it would be moments where I would catch him over there. He's from New Orleans, so he would always be in there just jamming and bug jumping with certain things. He was a real cool boss, honestly. And I really did learn how to be kind of submissive, because he was kind of firm in direction, his team, because we'd be trying to do other stuff. He'd be like, "You thought you was gonna get over? Won't gonna happen." So that's when I discovered that, okay, he kind of real people, but okay, don't try to play him though. Okay. So nevertheless, we would chat. And so one day I saw him looking really, really sad, and he had told me that the person that he had been dating, that he came here with, had died. And I was like, that was a good time to kind of see where his mind was and stuff, and God had already said that, but I was like, I don't know this.
So let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Was you attracted to him?
You know what? He was really, really cool. I liked his personality a lot. But honestly, because he was older, I was like, I don't know if I want to do parole and an older guy and my parents too. That seemed like I might be at the senior citizen club. I was feeling like that was
you're not trying to cap on George.
Is that what I was doing?
Because did you think how do you think he felt when he's saying he's dealing with a woman from parole in regards to who had? So I'm not gonna bring this up yet, but I wonder how he felt. How did you guys get to the topic of what you went to prison for? So
after he decided to tell me that the person had passed, I said, well, he said, you mind telling me why you went to prison? And I was like, I really don't like to talk about that, but I don't have anything. Is
this one of the times y'all were one-on-one, or was this in front of other people?
We one-on-one, because we had a lot of times that, mind you, we're gonna put a disclaimer out here, because my husband still works for the county, and so does Tia. So, and we don't want to look like they're trying to be
a matchmaking up in the county
on county hours. Okay, that would be fraternizing.
But it's not a secret.
I got my hours, honestly.
You did, and it's not a secret that you're married. Everybody knows it. You're his wife.
Yeah, they know that I'm his wife, but we don't want them to think that we did anything illegal, because he honestly did not get my phone number the whole time. And he could have got my number.
Well, he didn't need your number because you was on the bus every doggone day.
Every day. I was there every day, except for that one day. But nevertheless, I did explain to him, and he was like, well, maybe, the person deserted, because I was explaining to him that I was going through some challenging times. And so he was very understanding and compassionate. He was open-minded. He wasn't judgmental. So that made me really have, because that was a fear factor of mine. I knew I was, because before I went to prison, they was just not doing Facebook. MySpace was kind of the thing, and online dating had just kind of came out. When I came back, that was full fledged. People were not really meeting at the Walmart at church no more. They were like online dating. And I was like, I guess I won't be dating because I can't fill out no thing online. I'm like, okay, how am I going to answer the questions? They're going to ask you, have you ever been in jail before? Yeah, for a ticket.
No, you didn't.
Well, exactly. So when they see your cute profile and you go to say you went to jail for killing somebody, they're going to delete your whole thing off their shopping list. So I was like, well, I'm just going to be cool. So that was like an avenue to tell me that there's other ways to meet somebody when he showed an interest in me. Now I'm gonna just put this out here, and I won't put my husband out there. My husband's just trying to get with somebody young and cute too.
Wait, why would you say that?
Because he was, and I like to help women get free. So they'll say, for real, Mr. Washington, he was just trying to get my number. And I say, sir, I can't give you my number because this will be fraternizing. So
I'm gonna stand up for my brother right quick, because I think if he just wanted a woman, I think your relationship and what George has brought to the table, one, men, most men would not have dated you to know that you have killed your ex-husband, your previous husband. To that's not like you said, something big on the profile. Two, the way you met, the age difference, and I think you and George complement each other so well. And when I sit back and watch you, just like at my dad's birthday party. My dad turned 75, so we had a big party.
Yes.
And one of the things that we had a photographer there, and we had a backdrop, and we took some pictures. And Tina and George, everybody is always just so in awe of them. A lot of them know her backstory, and a lot of them don't. Mm-hmm. So just to have they were there taking pictures. We had everybody coupling up and taking pictures. And the photographer goes, look how he loves, baby. He loves his woman. The way he looks at her, the way he's there for her. And like she said, when actually, I was a DJ in New Orleans. I went to college in New Orleans. New Orleans people have a whole different flavor.
Yes.
So the way he interacts with her, the way he takes care of her, from a person that's coming from prison, who's been in prison 4 years, and we're going to get in regards to that time and that sentence. Mm-hmm. Being in prison for those years, not knowing where you're going to go. You come home, just how things align, because I'm trying to help her maneuver and say, hey, these are some of the things you can do when you get out. Here's how you need to take care of this still issue that's on your back. And she meets her husband. So that's a whole different.
And y'all was very protective of me as well.
Yeah, because it was a lot of things going on. And I know we've had conversations that where when you called and you got in the car and you was like, hey, I'm on my way home. Stop playing. You just got down there. I was real about it. I was like, hey, stop playing. She was like, I am on my way home. I'll see you soon. But and I think that's just inspiring for women to really see that there is life.
There's hope
after the ex. There's hope. Now, everybody's story they ain't gonna be the George.
Not all the time. No.
They're not gonna have the ability to do some of the things that you've done. And I want to dive in that with you, because me and you have talked. I kind of said you was a spoiled prisoner.
Yes.
And I know how that makes you feel, because I worked in the criminal justice system for so long. It does not always happen. So in giving women hope and freeing them, also we got to tell them the truth.
True.
That prison time is hard.
It's very hard. Yes, it is.
But in your instance, and I want you to share the particular story, because we've been sister friends, and because of my mom, I had the opportunity to be into Tina's life. So when every time I would go visit your mom or do things, you were on the phone. And I told Miss Dorothy, I was like, Miss Dorothy, look, I understand this is your daughter, and that's hard for it to I was like, but you gotta let her do this time. I said, she on the phone more than every time I come on here, how much money are y'all spending on this? And she was like, it's getting hot, but I knew I had to step back. I wanted to say, hey, you're gonna have to give her some space. And she's like, I can't let her go. I can't, I still have to be here. And it's a mental thing, it's that attachment. And I was like, cause she's spoiled. She was like, well, I gotta send Tina some money. My daddy, hey, let's get Tina some money. Send. I was like, y'all spoiled. I was the one that was going,
That was your legal side.
Yeah, but I was saying, hey, she
Yeah.
got to get used to
True.
this part of her life. We're not going to be able to keep this up forever, not knowing that it's just only going to be 4 years.
Correct. Yeah.
And we say that only 4 years, even though for a lot of people that's a long time when you're talking about prison. But I just think
Especially
share
the
the story.
location.
Yeah, share the story in regards to how prisoners view you because of some of the things.
I'm gonna tell you honestly, and this is to help someone who probably has a family member down there, that you're there to support them. Sometimes you can't enable your family member with what you want to call your love and support.
Wait a minute,
Because
say that again for me.
sometimes you can't be an enabler to your family member while they're doing that time, because they're not really attaching to the reality of what they're doing in that place. Now, I'm not saying that people just, you need to let them suffer and let them be without, because again, they classify me as being spoiled because I had visits, mail, money, calls, this, that, and everything on a regular basis. But it was a lot of times that with having that stuff, I was wasteful. Doing things that I probably shouldn't have been done if I hadn't had access to certain things. Well, it was people who didn't have anything. So, you have to be real mindful that, you want to help and love your family, but you want to make sure they get what they're supposed to be getting while they're doing that time. Because even though prison is hard, there are some eyewitness, some seriously harsh things. I mean, they told me what happened to stay here. I said, you make that up, I'm gonna tell everything. So I'm gonna let you know, I witnessed somebody biting their thing off, somebody hanging themselves on my first day, somebody stabbing somebody, getting cut up. I mean, I saw things that traumatized me. I came from trauma to be in trauma, and it was just unreal.
But let's stop right there, because you said a lot, and I just want to unpack that in regards to enabling those who are doing time, so they can get the message of why they're there. Also, you talked about being traumatized, coming from one traumatized situation to another, and this is all in a short period of time.
Correct.
And you recognize that you were wasteful because you had so much and other people didn't have anything. So how do you compartmentalize that now? And I know you use the word traumatized. Do you still feel that, 8 years after, do you still feel some of those things are there still affect you today?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm an extreme light sleeper. Like I sleep light. I hear everything. I don't sleep. Because that's the sleep that you lose sleeping on the inside, because you never know someone's going to try to attack you at night. When I first came home, it took me, I know, at least 6 months to maybe 9 months to adjust to waking up and seeing I was really in this environment, that I was home and safe in a regular bed, because I was used to waking up to a cot at 3 a.m, trying to make it there, and hopefully I can give me some breakfast. That probably wasn't the best, but you needed some kind of substance, to make it through the day. And so just that routine of getting up and doing things where, like, you make sure I got my clothes, and and learning how to be appreciative to. I mean, I'm a fashion designer. I like clothes. I like shoes. I was wearing the same thing every day, the same color. Like, the only way my stuff, and again, for those who have them, don't spoil them. Give them things they need to help them. You know what I'm saying? Because state shoes are uncomfortable for your feet. I lost a lot of muscle development in my feet. But
those
slides and those state boots that you wear, and so, but I had like several pairs of shoes. So I looked like I was, rich in prison with shoes. So my outfits changed because I changed my shoes, you know what I'm saying? I could buy makeup and I have to wear Maybelline. Nevertheless, little things like that you want to make sure that your people are understanding. Is that the reason that got you there? Because I was making bad decisions prior to then. Buying stuff, having more than stuff than I really needed. God needed me to learn. He showed me how I was wasteful. And I thought I was a couponer and a saver, but he showed me in that little spot, because you only have a small spot to keep stuff. I still get more than enough that I have, and then get in trouble behind it. So sometimes you enable them by giving them all this access to stuff, and they're getting themselves in trouble because they're trying to hide it. It's become contraband. They're trafficking and trading. They're doing things that's not making them be conscious and aware of doing the right thing. So when they come back to society, they're not doing the same bad habits that got them there. Some
Right.
people go to prison and come back home the same way because they are enabled through family so-called family support system. Let them just ride through this time like y'all classify me as, and I can see that now. I didn't just wasn't terrible like some people with that, but I did recognize where I didn't have to have all the stuff that I had.
So in having that, so we talked about, you know, you're inside, you have all this access, you don't get to stay long. And I don't know if I should put it like that. You didn't have to stay long. You were blessed to get out well before your time. You've come out, you've met a wonderful man, you have a house, you know, everything that you had and more before you left. So it is amazing. Just in regards to how you, even just things in the past. And when I was, and before this, I was wrapping up Tina's hair, and I remember going to her house previously, pre all of this, and she had dreads because I have locks. We both have locks. Let me use the correct word, not dreads, locks. And so just how she's rebuilding from there and more going forward. So when I look at you, because I work in a criminal justice system, it's not a normal person who kills her husband, goes to prison, doesn't stay even a fraction of the time that you're supposed to be there, come home, and you have, and we hear you've met a wonderful man, you've have a new life. I understand the words favor isn't fair. And we hear that a lot now. Favor isn't fair. You know, what God bestows on you is what is for you. However, I'm a woman, my family is out here, and I'm not having that same experience. You know, and I'm not even talking about guilty or innocence. I'm not having that same experience. So as a person, how do you minister to those families and saying they're having a hard time, they're going through these issues, we can't continue to put money on the books, we can't continue to have that connection to keep the kids in her life and do this? How do they, as you say, ride out this time?
Well, believe it or not, there are a lot of resources available for families on the outside who has an incarcerated family member, and they have a lot of resources for those that are incarcerated. People use it like me, missing, getting my time served, and a few other legal things that I could have been knowledgeable about.
We're not gonna talk about that.
Okay, moving on.
We'll talk about that on another.
Okay, it's another whole show, but you know, I want to help people get free. And so, nevertheless, it's a lot of resources that are available. So, what I would do is encourage them to tell them to find the resources. What you can do is reach out to the prison system. They have a whole chaplaincy department. That's the part that I work in as a volunteer. They have a ton of programs that are there to help them navigate what life would really be like when they transition back out, because a lot will have changed even in a year. And a year is not a lot of time, but a lot of things can happen in a year when someone's been away in an environment. Because in prison, time starts to look it's the same. After every day, you're doing the same routine. People come home and they're like, "Why you look so refreshed?" I ain't have to pay no bills all for
you don't have the stress of life.
I don't have to worry about cutting the light off at night. It went off on its own. It's like I had a power light control. You know, I didn't have to cook no food because I worked in the kitchen. You know what I'm saying? That's what my job.
And that is true, because a lot of prisoners come home and I'm like, you look younger than what time stands still for you. It's because they don't have the stresses of life. Right. They're not in the rat race.
But that's not everybody's story, because I witnessed someone getting how they hung themselves. So I had a moment of battle depression because, I mean, even though my family was there, I still miss my family.
And you're not free.
And I'm still, and I wasn't free before I went. That's the thing that I want to help people understand, is that when you learn the real truth of your experiences, I was already locked up before I was locked up.
So what do you mean? Go a little bit
because
more into that.
I came from a traumatic situation. I kept getting into these toxic relationships because I didn't realize there were other options. I kept being attracted to. If you don't discover the other options, you default to you automatically knowing your environment. So that's what kept me going this direction. So I was already incarcerated to my way of thinking. That made these type of choices that made me have to face the consequences to them, that led me to not recognizing the red flags and things of that sort.
So did you realize that after you've come home, or did you realize that while you were in prison?
While I was there. Because guess what? During that time, you got a lot of still time to think about a lot of things. It gives you a moment of reflection if you utilize it right, because you get people in there that sometimes they find a way to make things happen. You know, once you get over the initial shock of being there, being humiliated, because it's humiliating. You get stripped down almost every day to go to work.
Let's hold that. Let's take a break because I got
Okay.
some questions in regards to that.
Okay. All right. So we're going to take a break to hear from one of our amazing sponsors. And we look forward to being back with you in just a little bit.
You're listening to All About Us Radio. We're live streaming 24/7, playing old school versus new school. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at AAU Media, and visit our website www.aaumedia.com. Call us at 1-833-369-1444 extension 1 and leave us an inspirational message or request. You're listening to All About Us Radio.
Welcome back. We're here with myself and my sister friend Tia, Life After the X. We're All About Us Radio. You can follow us on Facebook and YouTube every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Standard Time. So we're going to dive in because we don't want to waste a lot of time. We want to thank our amazing sponsor for sponsoring the show for today.
So before we left, we talked. We hit a lot of points. You've been to prison for killing your husband. You get out of prison, you got to deal with some tickets. Mm-hmm. A lot of tickets. A whole bunch of tickets.
A lot of tickets, but people have more than me.
Okay. So you want to make that okay. So you go, you do community service, you meet your now husband, mm-hmm. That you married. After all of this, he knows that you killed you've been to prison for killing your husband. And just where you've come from, some of the things that you've dealt with, that you're still getting over from mm-hmm. having your stint in prison. So you talked about before we left some hard things, and you were talking about having a relationship with your kids. Still being able to try to do that versus the people who are in prison to go to the chaplain and deal with those different things mm-hmm. while they're there. So finish talking about what programs they have or that you know of.
Okay. So in chaplaincy, they do have one, and I just want to say this, and could you make a tab in about that? They do have a because some people go into depression because they might have a harsh crime like mine where they have victims. They have a victim impact program.
Oh yeah.
And the victim impact program can help navigate that individual who could really be stuck in that moment of their situation where a bad decision was made because there were people who lost a family member and they're going through their grieving period and don't know how to process it as well. So that's a good resource for those who may have a charge very similar to mine and there's a victim involved. Definitely seek that out through chaplaincy.
And let me explain something about victim impacts. So you'll go through the court system and usually, like she said, there's a victim involved, there's family members involved. And usually at the end of a trial, after the jury is read and they're about to go into deliberations, it depends on if you have the judge to give your sentence or if you have a jury to give your sentence. There's a victim impact. And that's usually when you see the victims' families come up and read their statements or talk directly to the defendant and tell them how whatever action they did, how it affected them. And they usually like the jury to hear that because it makes an impression. Mm-hmm. So when you have a victim impact, usually that information stays with that person's file. So if the victim's family decides to write a letter or do something in regards to the victim impact, whenever that person comes up on parole, whenever that person comes, they're trying to get out, if the family cannot be there, the parole board will usually look at the victim impact statements. So there's programs to where now, and it's starting to be more prevalent, where they try to pair the prisoner with the family for forgiveness, because forgiveness is not for um, them, it's for the family, so they can move on, move forward. And a lot of times having those conversations, seeing that person develop and really take a step back in regards to whatever incident has happened, usually helps the family get through.
Yeah, so it helps the family mostly. That's what it's primarily set for, but it does help the offender because that offender may be holding that thing that won't let them navigate make amends and be able to choose other things. That's their cognitive skills that could develop to make them better. Learn from that life after that experience. They can't get that experience because of that. So it's a good program to have. However, don't try to utilize that program, because some people do that, try and hope to not get a decision where parole goes against you, because people can petition you. So don't use it for that avenue. So I pray that if you do, it's for the benefit of helping that family and you, for the better you. They also have the schools. You can go to schools. A lot of people get in trouble when they're young, and they've been in the juvenile system. Then they end up going to prison, and they haven't even gotten a high school diploma. So they can go, they can get their GED. During that time, that's building their resume for job readiness, as well as being able to socially deal with certain things that they're learning from outside instructors that's bringing new things that where the average inmate don't get those resources if they're not utilizing that resource of taking classes. The library in the chaplaincy library has a wealth of books. People donate great books. I've donated some of my books there, and I'm trying to get people to donate books. So look out for our book donation program. The people donate books, and they're able to come in and see these books, and it's letting them see what's going on, giving them hope of things that can happen for them when they get out, so that they can see another side to what's happening outside of just being in those white walls and everything looking the same, and leaving them at a bleed of no hope.
So also let's talk about your relationship with the outside. So you have 2 kids, and at that time your daughter was young, and your son, they're going through school, they're trying to, your situation was on the news, kind of everybody knew about this. Your husband at the time was a popular dancer, so it affected different communities and how that was spun. So how, you coming home, trying to get back in the swing of things. I think that was one of the things you're saying. You're trying to jump right back in. And, I'm your same mama that I was, but you haven't been here for years. And they've went through their own journey with this time you've had to serve. Kind of let us in on that.
Okay, so again, I wanted to come home, and so let's just say, because I had the opportunity to see my children. Everybody don't have the opportunity to see their children on a regular visitation, so they coming home to a whole new brand new something. So I did have a little bit of something of communication to come home to, but that still didn't alleviate the fact that there was time lapse of not being in the schools, being active with the activities they've been a part of. They done went from little children to teenagers at this point. My son was going to high school. My daughter was getting ready to go to junior high school. Their personality had been developed while I was gone. Those were very strong instrumental years while I was gone. It was only 4 years, but those were 4 strong years where they developed their own personality. How would they survive when people see them with their grandmother? Because sometimes when people see kids with their grandparents, the first thing they think is their parents are either in prison or on drugs or in jail, and they're just absent. So, of course, they had those things they had been going through, and I had to ask them for us to possibly consider therapy. And so, of course, they didn't want to, but I did still seek counsel to know how to navigate that, along with my parents being used to running things, and they wanted me to have that back, but they were so used to doing it themselves.
It was hard to let go.
It was hard for them to kind of let me have that back when I was just trying to, get myself back into some normalcy, but it was a new norm. So don't try to get yourself to jump into an old norm. You have to be ready for the new norm.
Wow. That's a powerful, because that's a lot just on you, because you're trying to come back, you're being a parent, you're trying to jump back into this routine. You got this new life, because even after 4 years, some habits have started. Like you saying, you sleeping like you got to wake up and believe that you're not behind bars, and so that whole routine kind of changed. Not an unwelcome routine. It's just some things you have to get back into. So let's fast forward to now. You have some successful kids. They're in college. You got a teacher. So how do you feel like they were affected? I know what it is to just on the basic, you had your mom in prison. You were always there, constant in their life, but they've experienced this whole trauma because they were there. And one, it was your daughter's dad. So how, take his experience, your older son's experience, and kind of talk about your daughter's experience and where they've come.
We do talks every 3 to 6 months. We sit down and just have family deep talks where we're able to just pull all these things out, because people we're constantly growing and navigating. And the fact that I've decided to go back, because it wasn't a immediate decision, because I had requirements by the state that I couldn't just do certain things immediately in my navigation of goals. I had time to kind of get them ready for what I knew I was purposed to do. And I didn't want to pull them into something that they were ready to just move on from, because a lot of times they'd be like, "Mama, that's our past," and they were ready to just leave all that behind. But I'm constantly trying to share something to help somebody, and they didn't see it in that capacity.
So stop right there and talk about when you say go back. You're talking about going back to prison. So talk about that a little bit, and then we'll come back into their different experience.
So, but the fact that I'm going back to prison took me back. I'm going back because I'm not just sharing my prison experience. I'm sharing the prison prior to prison that got me to prison. So to them, I'm
say that one more time, because you said a lot.
Okay, so I'm just not going back to prison, but I was going back to prison talking about what was behind me.
Okay.
What was in the back of me. And so what caused me to get there.
Right.
And so to some people, because when you have family members and you want to share your story, it has a lot of what you call supporting actors.
Okay.
And not all supporting actors want their story told.
Okay.
And so they may have navigated and found their new norm, and they don't want to experience that journey with you. So knowing how to respect those boundaries, and I had to be open to knowing how they felt about that. So we would have those talks, and they were okay with it. They just didn't want to jump in and then be involved in the media because they had their own lives.
That was your thing.
That was for me to do. But
right.
Like now, like both my kids, they both have been to the parole office where I facilitate class, and they've shared and talked. They've answered questions for parents who want to know how kids feel about their parents. And but we had to get there. We didn't just go into that. I was home. And again, I know this seems like real fast because I was only home 6 months before I met my husband. I was married in a year, my son went off to college, on a music scholarship. I was worrying about funds and stuff like that, so it was a lot of things that they just kind of worked in for my good. But
favor ain't fair.
But I didn't want to take it lightly and for granted, because I knew someone would ask me, what would you do if you didn't have that? Because that's the constant question. What would you do if you didn't have that? How would your life and your response would have been had it not been that God didn't have that for you? And so with me, because I knew that he had a promised future for me, because I never saw my husband in my future. I was coming home to possibly do ministry because I had finally convinced myself to be trained for it and just let my children grow up. Okay. So I conditioned my mind that I was going to be at my parents' house. Why get a new place when I could just help them and develop myself? Because I didn't know how long it was going to take me to reestablish myself. If you don't come home with some savings, you coming home to some debt.
Right.
And from being incarcerated, and depending on how long you've been gone,
but
it's going to be costly.
But let's go back. Unpack that question. Okay. What do you think your life would have been like if you didn't have this favor that you had? Because you had favor all through.
True.
And so I want to drive home that your journey is not the typical journey.
Correct.
So although, being blessed, and we pray for that, kind of talk about, hey, if that favor wasn't there, where do you think you would be? You know what?
I had amazing people like yourself, a support team. I kind of had my mindset that I would get with my support team, the right people, because you have to change people, places, and things. I had to condition my mind. Mm-hmm. All friends that that were around weren't supposed to be in my circle. I did have some not good bats of trying to go back and thinking you could pull this old norm to the new norm, and it's
Right.
not working for your favor and good. But once I realized this is what that's going to be for me, I knew as an entrepreneur I could start over even if I didn't get a regular job. Most people, if they don't have entrepreneur skills or a trade that they can work with or a connection resource, then it would be much of a challenge. So my other alternative would have been I would have probably gone back to school full time and worked with some of the programs and resources to help me build independently.
And I'm glad you say that, because in your previous life, I want to use this word, but I want to use it right. You've always hustled. It's always been a hustle. We met on on a hustle.
Yeah.
And when I say hustle, I
Yeah.
don't mean she's trying to take something or be shady. I'm talking about Tina will always work. She says she's a fashion designer. She always uh will flip it. She was out there, she made dance clothes, she made any clothes. So clientele at the time, I mean, you were working stage plays.
Yeah.
You had some opportunities in regards to working with some big stage
Shows,
plays.
yeah,
You were on your way. Some people who were big time that are big time now.
Mhm.
So I think being, because you were out of the game, you were in prison,
Mhm.
but you still have that hustle, you know. And one of the pieces is you're good at what you do. A wedding dress, you can make prom dress, you can flip, and when we see those items, I'm like, dang, she did that.
Yeah.
So that hustle piece is always, and that, like
Mhm.
you call it, the entrepreneurial
Mhm.
spirit. But that was something that I'm glad you said, because I knew when you were coming home that you were gonna make it. You started getting your fabrics. You was like, I gotta get this back. I gotta kind of build to
Right.
where I was like, you just made it
I
home. Look, you
know, I
just
know,
got down there,
I
and
know.
now you just made it. You just made it home. But it was always gonna come
Mhm.
to that fruition.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see that, and I think even if everything wasn't around you and the family didn't gather around you, that we will still, you were gonna make it.
Yeah.
It was just in the stars.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
wait, we have a question.
All right. Got a question here. Where we at? On your mark, get ready. Here we go. Where is it at?
We're gonna have to pull this down right quick.
Let's pull
Probably.
it down. All right. Thank y'all so much for being here with us. Okay, you figured it out for me. Okay. Did you see it? It went away.
I didn't see it.
Okay, there we go.
Ex-offenders don't always let employers know about their past. Unfortunately, once employers receive background checks from HR, they are let go. No explanation. How can we? I can't see that. Understanding it, be truthful once. Okay, so what I'm thinking is this person is asking, I'm an ex-offender. I've been trying to get a job. I've been trying to get a job. I know that once my background comes back,
Mhm.
it's going to be an issue. Yes, I would say working in the criminal justice system, that you do need to let them know. And
Mhm.
already, here's the thing. Let's just be real. Don't go if you know that they're not going to hire you. If you have crimes of a moral interpretute, theft, let me use the right, theft or anything, don't go to a bank.
Mhm.
Don't do it. But good things are, there's so many employers that will hire you with the background. You just have to know how to search them out and what that is. There are so many employers now, and especially it's increasing, that will hire you with felonies, not just misdemeanors, not just small crimes, but will felonies. And they're starting to advertise that. So get with your local probation, parole officers. They
Mhm.
always know.
Mhm.
And of course, it just depends. We have a lot of major corporations that have um, major CEOs with backgrounds. It just depends on what that is. Now,
Mhm.
they will hire a person that has certain assault cases, but they won't hire again theft cases. If there are certain things they will do in regards to keep their license, but there are so many employers that are hiring people with backgrounds now, because it's just so many people in the workforce. And just in regards to a bounce check, those different things showing up on their background.
Yeah.
And hopefully Tina will let us come back and we'll talk about expunging, non-disclosures, all of that things to kind of seal those background things. Now there's certain things that you won't be able to seal. But there are certain things that you can seal that will really boost you in the workforce. So yes, we understand that is a major problem, and I think it's on the shift. So I hope we were able to answer your question. Did you want to add?
There are a lot of resources that are being very supportive in formerly incarcerated or felon friendly. We'll say that, as well as there is a lot of companies, again, for either tax or security bond reasons, that are making the provision to bring employment for those who are been formerly incarcerated or currently walking down parole. Because sometimes you can be just a formerly incarcerated but not on parole and have a much of an ease depending on how far back your charge is. So like after 7 years, it's a little more lenient on you as opposed to when you're brand new and if you have a monitor on. Because some companies, they will be felon friendly, but they don't want you there because you have the monitor. So it's a case by case. You kind of just got to look into the details of that type of job. And again, like she said, if your thing was you were selling drugs, don't go try to be no pharmacist right off the bat. If you were robbery or any type of theft charge, don't try to go and be no cashier real fast. They're not going to hire you with that, But that's not to say that they don't, because I know people who have gone back and gotten their license for dependency, and they know how to work with people who or have been on drugs and they were formerly on drugs and they had a drug charge. So there's a lot of things that are shifting and changing that are available. We just have to constantly stay attached to the resources that are every day changing and becoming available.
That's true. That's true. And so when fortunately you are an entrepreneur, you have your own business, so it's different from you didn't have to go back into the workforce. So do you feel like having those people be their own boss, that's a major impact for them as well, because the money is different?
True.
You're talking about somebody who has to go home. Most likely most people go to fast food, retail, depending on what they can do, stocking at night, a lot of warehouse job, which is hard on the body. Labor, So how do you feel like, even with the education, because that mark on your record makes a difference. And it all depends on what it is. So do you feel like entrepreneurially that is the way to go?
Sometimes if you've had the unfortunate thing of being rejected from employment through the traditional form, even with just working in a warehouse and the logistics is growing, but they still didn't hire you, and it's constantly happened, there's something telling you that it's time for you to start a job, create a job, and make it where people can be hired. You can hire someone who's challenged like that. And what I share with people all the time is that it's interesting, because this is another disclaimer I'm always doing. You're going to find me do a lot of disclaimers on Life After the X because of the conversations that we're having. I'm just going to be upfront and honest. People learn how to survive on the inside. People will get, even if they had to steal some salt and pepper out the kitchen. I'm not promoting none of that. TDCJ, this is my disclaimer. We're not telling anybody to traffic and trade, steal, or break any rules. They couldn't afford to go to commissary and buy it. How you
gotta buy salt and pepper on commissary? Okay.
Absolutely, if you want to have it, yes, indeed. So, but people will learn people who have skills of cooking.
Right.
People learn how to draw, sitting there with their time, tracing a coloring book, and sell letterhead things to write their children with the pretty, colorful stuff. People develop skills while they were there. And what gets me is during that time, you come home and society may reject you with a traditional job, and you forget that you can go, because Texas workforce has broadened. They will help you go to school and become an entrepreneur.
Okay.
They have job entrepreneurship ready classes available for you, resources for getting small business loans and grants, helping you. Now, of course, I'm going to encourage you, if you have that kind of stuff on your background that you're not familiar with, we're going to talk about expunging, because it's more than just a credit number. They're looking at a lot of other things when they're trying to help you, but they're there to help you navigate through that transition if you're not going to be working for someone and you want to work for yourself. But there's a lot of resources to help you with that. But I always target back to, what did you do when you was on the inside? And most of them was selling all kind of stuff or doing all kind of things to get some stamps to be able to make it. Stamps is money on the inside.
Okay.
So because ain't no money, so people use stamps. People can get some stamps, and they sell stamps as 20 cents or 50 cents, whatever it is, and you put your price to it and you said it's 20 stamps. And you could use the
Oh,
stamps
okay.
to either retrade to whatever or write home. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So if you got a skill that you don't develop, and again, my disclaimer, I'm not encouraging anybody to be doing no contraband, traffic, or trading, or break any rules
Because
to
you,
TDCJ.
got to go back to the prison.
Because I go back and I support people doing the right things, being accountable, being obedient, being in compliance, being in place, not being out of place. I'm going to teach you to do the right thing. However, I did break a bunch of rules. I thank God for favor and grace. I did get in some trouble at times trying to be I'm a creative person.
You are.
So of course I had a lot of contraband because didn't have no sewing machine, so but I try to share the positive way of doing things, the constructive way, because there are resources on the inside to help you with that. Okay. So I'm trying to take what I did experience and what I did observe and show them the other way to do it so they don't break the law and have all the stuff that sits on your record as you come back out. Because if you get all the stuff on your record, it's on your file with parole as well.
Okay.
You a bad actor going in with stuff on your jacket, you coming out with stuff on your jacket. You have to rectify these things. So you have to find a point to want to start and make that right.
And I know we're about to come to a close, but you said something that struck me. So you talked about your kids and therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And right now there's a lot going around mental health, because a lot of people end up in jail because of their mental health status. And we always say jail is no place for mentally ill people.
Right.
However, mental health has been a major issue in the criminal justice system. Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of people going in with mental health and coming out with mental health, because mm-hmm. mental health programs are the number one / programs when we're talking about budget. Mm-hmm. So how, in regards to the therapy that you and your family have gone through, and what kind of therapy? Is there assistance out there? You're coming, you've had this, like you said, you're going in traumatic, you're kind of coming out traumatic, because there's things that happen in prison that happen in prison. Mm-hmm. So would you recommend therapy?
I would definitely recommend therapy. It's different types of therapy. You have the traditional mental well-being therapy. So one example that falls underneath that, if you suffer with ADHD, or you suffer with something like depression or schizophrenia, there's different types of therapy treatments, because some therapy may require sessions and medication to mm-hmm. gauge you out. So that's one form. But then you have the therapy or what they call counseling, which may be the religious base.
So do they do therapy? Do they do a lot of therapy in prison? And is it worth
they do not do therapy. People self-medicate. Okay. A lot of people who suffer with certain things, if they don't turn to other things like going to school or taking some type of cognitive developmental class to utilize that time, because the idle mind, what they say, is a devil workshop. So if you're sitting with a clear mind and nothing is there, that canvas is open for anything to get on it.
Okay.
So if you're already suffering with a mental condition, that mind is sitting there telling you all kinds of stuff. You could think somebody's want to get you and nobody's even thinking about getting you. Then you're going to attack that person because your mind is not preoccupied with some things.
So we have another question.
Let's kind of eliminate that thing there so we can see that question good. All right. Are there rehabs, sensitivity programs for businesses? Our ex-offenders need a job, and in the most, we got to clear that screen. I don't know how we can get that gone to see the rest of the question. Should this be diversity in an inclusion type class? Absolutely. They've come a long way. As a matter of fact, they have a lot of entrepreneurship stuff that they're starting for women now. It's a program called Strive that they have available for women, that they actually gets them ready for the transition. They learn to use the cell phone. They learn to get on a computer. They actually establish an email account. They get an interview in regular street clothes with employees that come to the prison and interview them as they get ready to transition out. So there are some programs that they're preparing people for and inclusion and diversity, so they don't seem like they're just coming out to this big old thing trying to find out where all this stuff is at when clearly everything has changed. And you feel excluded because you think you're coming out with this big old symbolization X on your back, and it's really not really like that.
I say, I understand it, and I'm a person that's never been to prison, so my view may be a little bit different. I think there should be some diversity and inclusion programs, but this to me is to a certain point. I know we like to use the word rehabilitation for prisoners a lot, but this is still prison. And depending on your heinous crime, I know depending on when you should get out, those things make an impact. So when you're dealing with people who need jobs, it how just in my mind, how do you know a person who's going to be there and they're possibly going to get out, but you got out way before your time. So yeah, everybody needs a job skill, like you talked about. I don't mind, those different things, but I still have this thing, and maybe I'm just because I'm in Texas, certain things, it's prison. So what are we teaching? What are we doing? And we talk a lot about jobs, but mental health, how they got there, what does rehabilitation look like to make them a productive citizen? And that is jobs. That is, but there's a lot behind that. So I'm thinking we really need to look at a lot of mental health situations in prison to even get that person before the job.
Absolutely. And that's where like our volunteer programs come in. And I know we go in on the chaplaincy side of things, because you got two divisions of rehabilitation. You got the more traditional form where there's some type of not necessarily therapy that you go to, which needs to be implemented in some way, but it's the budget. But classes that are generated to kind of prone the individual to see what caused them to get into this state, to kind of work it back and bring them out on that side, and with schooling as well. But then you have the chaplaincy side where we come in and encouraging them to establish a relationship with God and with yourself, to find that self-love and identity, because a lot of people who suffer with a lot of mental things typically have gone through something traumatic and they don't have that self-love, worth, and identity. And so then they think everything is against them with individuals, and they create this whole something that typically is not almost even realistic at times. But you can't just tell them that. So then if they have a dependency of something, that, because some things are not necessarily because they use drugs in their life. Some people just have a dependency because that's just they did how it was made up. It could have been something medically induced when they were born. They was little, they suffered with, that was never addressed, and they just grew into this thing on a survival mechanism.
Right.
And then they just pivoted to that direction, and then everything spiraled out. So then so like you said, the key thing is, how did they get there? What caused them to get there? So give them an opportunity to share that, because people don't even ask them how they got there. They just want to help you get out of it, and they're trying to give you this cookie cut thing that's not made for everybody.
Right, because you have trauma and childhood things that could go back for years, and it's not always trauma.
Right.
It's some people. There are some people who are going to go against the grain, and I'm not saying going against the grain is bad, but who just are put on, they put themselves on the path, or they are put on a path, and they play that out. So, but I just from my inside have of criminal justice, a lot of it is mental health.
Yeah.
A lot of it is mental health.
It really is. And again, being able to target it down to what type of mental condition are we addressing here? Was it self-induced, or was it something? Okay, so let me give you two examples when we're going to navigate to the next thing. Some people are like, okay, suffer with ADHD. And so they might give them some type of drug to kind of bring them down from not being so hyperactive, and they become prescription addicted to this thing to survive.
Right.
Where there's other avenues like me, I just got a whole bunch of old school whoopings. Now, it didn't bring me all the way back around, because I still made some unwise choices that gave me the consequences that led me to some of the things that I got involved in. However, I'm not in my mental health challenges addicted to anything. So now, mind you, they had these things, and now they're addicted to something that's on top of what they already had going on. Then you got those who were recreational and they want to try something, then their body didn't handle it in their capacity, and it threw them all the way off, and now they just making irrational things, and that's a mental health thing. So they shouldn't be housed in the same way as others, because it's a conflict.
Right.
And you mention all this together, and people are combating against each other, and it's just like toxic.
Wow. I know we talked about a lot. We jumped around a lot. Thank you for letting me interview you and get deep down. I know we talk on a personal level, but I think like you're doing this show, you're putting yourself out there, so people want to know a little bit more about you. And I thank God that you're home, that you're sharing, and that you are touching the lives that you are touching.
Thank you for coming and giving us this insight about, and we're going to have you come back because people going to want to know about the resources that are available.
Oh, yeah.
I do know some, but I do not know a lot. It's a lot of things happening and changing, and I know that you have access to that. So we're definitely going to bring that back. So again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in and hanging out with us. We're going to share our tea because every week we have a tea of the week and we have a tip of the week. So definitely we're going to share what teas we're having today that we were sipping on.
Yes, my honey lemon ginseng. So yes, I love lemon teas, and the ginseng gives a little boost. So yeah, I love lemon.
Mm-hmm.
Does a lot of good for the body.
Yes, it's good.
So
for the
yes,
body.
that heat is cold outside.
And what did you have your tea in today?
Well, my nice Life After the X cup.
So if you happen to want one of those cups, and we have some All About Us media runs coming as well.
Okay.
Go ahead and get your tea so you can sip on some tea while you hanging out with me doing these wonderful experiences on Life After the X. And my tea of the week, I did a peach this week.
All right.
Y'all know I love some ginseng and lemon, but she got my last one going on, so y'all can see that. But it's been real good. And me, I get to go and put my little cute little something going on up in here. Let me see if I can get that in there. Can y'all see that? Yeah.
Oh yes, nice,
nice.
Nice.
Thank you so much. But so we've experienced our tea of the week. So now I need to get a tip out of you. So we want to give someone a tip that's going to carry and encourage them throughout the rest of the week based on what we've shared today on the show.
Yesterday was my birthday,
and you turned.
Mind your business, year old.
Happy birthday again.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I wanted to kind of talk about time. I've been on this kick for the last couple of years. And if you know me, I will repeat Boy George, time won't give me time.
Time won't give you time. You do that.
Life in prison time, whether it's at home time, you're with your family time waits for no one. So in this week, take time for yourself. Jump in with 2 feet. Be present wherever you are. Having a birthday, you kind of see like, wow, these years, yes, I made it around the sun again. But where am I going next? What am I doing next? Who am I going to be with next? Who am I going to be and show up as next? Time, and if you have a loved one, serving time, be present with them. Like she said, time kind of stands still. It goes pretty slow. You're in this routine, but how can you affect your time? What is that dash going to be like in your time on this earth from your birth to your death? So I'm really in being present, doing some of the things that make me happy, being around the people that makes me happy. So when this time, wherever I am in at that time, making memories, having big memories. So that time, being able to reflect, time waits for no one. It's going fast.
That's right.
So, be present, show up for yourself and know what you're doing with your time.
Thank you for sharing that time with me.
Yes.
This is making memories. Mama would be proud of us.
Yes, she would.
That we're finally doing something together without her supervision.
Yes.
So I love it. So again, thank you so much for hanging out with us on Life After the X. This is All About Us Radio. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube at AAU Media.
Thank you, Pat, for tuning in.
Thank you, Pat, for hanging out with us. Yes, and so we are here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is about your life, your story, and your testimony. So if you are interested in being a guest, please reach out to us via our email, either on All About Us AAU Media, or you can go to lifeafterthex.com and you just show an interest in wanting to be here, and we'll be happy to bring you on and have a topic to talk about your life after the experience. And remember, don't allow anyone to X you out, because any X will do. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
You're listening to All About Us Radio. We're live streaming 24/7, playing old school versus new school. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at AAU Media, and visit our website, www.aaumedia.com. Call us at 1-833-369-1444, extension 1, and leave us an inspirational message or request. You're listening to All About Us Radio.